Hello there. Welcome into the After Schrock. My name is Thor Schrock, and I own the Schrock Innovations Computer Company. I always feel like when I do these that I'm talking to all of our fans who know, they listen to the show or they know who we are, they know who I am, and I realize that I don't, during the After Schrock, I don't tell anybody who I am. So if you just stumble into the After Schrock somewhere, you have no idea who this guy is, right? Do you guys like the Hunter Biden references there in the show? If you didn't hear about that story, it broke yesterday that Hunter was having trouble collecting some of his contracts from some of his business associates, and he asked his dad to step in and help, Joe Biden. And he didn't have any money at the time, though, because he wasn't getting paid from these contracts. So he asked his dad to Cash App him some money, and his dad said, "Is Cash App a thing?" And now, of course, I was making fun a little bit. To be brutally honest, I didn't know Cash App was a thing either. I'm like, Cash App? Who uses Cash App? But anyway, it was hilarious. Then the text they have the text message exchange between Hunter and Joe Biden trying to figure out what Cash App is, and Hunter finally just says, "Just have your assistant do it." And you go, "Oh, the assistant's doing it now. It's good." I'm like, "All right, great." So anyway, boy, this week has been wow. Intense, let's put it that way. I don't know, we haven't had an employee no call, no show, just like, not quit, but just like stop showing up after he was like 60 days in. He only had 30 days to go before the end of his probationary period and before he graduated into fully Schrock trainedness, and he just stopped showing up. So we're like, "Are you okay?" He doesn't respond. Like, "Are you sick? Or are you hurt? Did you get killed in a car accident? Or was it just the overwhelming amount of work you had to do?" Because, of course, like I mentioned, like when he was hired and trained, we were in our slow season, which is the summertime is usually slower for computer repair all the way around. And then all of a sudden, now we're out of the slow season, guys. It's getting busy. And yeah, when you have a major antivirus migration and a Windows 10 patch hit at the same time, especially one that's causing blue screens on pretty much half the laptops it touches, it's going to get busy. And when it got busy, some people are not used to working hard. Shouldn't say that. Some people are not used to working that hard, because even for me, I was like, this is intense. Okay, so I was doing Schrock tests in the Papillion Service Center on, I think it was Thursday morning. I popped in there because I come into the service center in the morning in Papillion because it's our warehouse service center, so I can get a visual on what they need. Are we short on Ryzen processors? Are we short on these processors? Do we need a little more memory? What are we running low on? So that I can get that stuff ordered and coming before we get critical, right? So I pop in to do that, and I found one thing to do, and I have a bad case of one more thing-itis, where there's always just one more thing to do before I can leave. So I'm just doing this one more thing, and before you know it, it's 10 o'clock, right? Then the phone starts exploding. And there's Nikki at the front desk, and we have 2 technicians in the service center. We have 3 phones in the Papillion Service Center. All 3 of them are on the phone, and I get a copy of every email that goes to every service center in my phone. So I always know what's going on. If you email one of my shops, I see it. I may not always read it, but I see it. So I'm seeing emails, and the subject line is "can't get through on phone." And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And then all of a sudden, people who can't get through on the phone, they say, well, there's a chat option on the website, because they're going to the website because they're thinking maybe I can call one of the other shops, right? So they're calling Lincoln, they're calling Omaha. Des Moines actually had the easiest time because their existing customer base is a lot smaller because they just opened 2 months ago. So we were actually using Des Moines as a call center, basically, having their technicians doing Schrock desks, having Shelly doing shooting support on Messenger. A lot of you got to talk with Shelly this week. I mean, it was an all hands on deck situation, and it just made me sit back and wonder, like, here we have people sitting at the service center in Des Moines that are helping longtime customers from Omaha and Lincoln and Papillion, and it's just beautiful how this system flexed up. Now, the problem was we didn't have enough total capacity. So, each service center has 3 phone lines. So, we have 4 service centers, that's 12 phone lines. All 12 lines were busy for a full day. And it makes it really difficult as a technician to get stuff done when your phones are overwhelmingly busy. Brian in Omaha asked me to post another Facebook Live video to tell people to stop installing the Sophos update. Just stop trying. Just don't do it, because Brian, we only have so much time to do it. I can't tell people to. I can't put up a video that says go and then put up another video that says stop. This isn't a red light, green light show. Red Rover, send Thor right over. This is like we're going, right? We're going to make the best of it. We're going to make the best of a tough situation. We're going to deliver as much award-winning service as we can possibly deliver. So literally, I had at the shop, I was in Papillion, and at 2 o'clock, I was the first time I looked at my watch again after 10 o'clock. That's how busy it was. And I was at one of the workstations. The guys were on the phones talking to people. I was on a workstation. I was jockeying the messenger conversation. So if you were chatting with me. And I had 2 screens there, and I had 4 Schrock desks going on 2 screens, and it was getting to the mental load point where I'm like trying to keep everybody straight, and then more messages are coming in, and who have I responded to, and who haven't I? Who can I mark as done? Does somebody else have this customer? Do I have that customer? And I said, okay, I've got everything automated to the point on these 2 screens now that it's going to run for the next half hour without me having to do anything. I'm not tied down to a headset. If I go home, I have 3 monitors on my desk at home. I have a gigabit internet connection, and I reached up on the shelf and I grab an IP phone. So now I have a phone. Okay, great. So I go home, I hook up the phone, I join my Schrock desk sessions that I had in progress at the Papillion Service Center, and now I'm back at work. And literally, I stayed there at that desk until 7 o'clock doing Schrock desk after Schrock desk after chat after chat. I had a great phone conversation with Carolyn in Round Rock. You've probably seen her on the program here a few times. Her secure updater just wasn't showing the Sophos migration tool as even an option to put on her computer. And we figured out it's because, she's in Round Rock. She didn't sign up in a Schrock service center. She signed up online, and people when you buy Secure Updater online, it doesn't automatically make you a Schrock customer. We're not automatically the vendor that owns your account. So because we have lots of vendors that sell Secure Updater. That's why she wasn't getting the update. So we have adopted Carolyn into the family, and she is now a Schrock customer where she should have been the whole time. And now she gets the Sophos migration tool. So we got to have a 3-way conversation with Alfonso. She got to talk to some people behind the scenes. It was pretty cool stuff. So it was just, I did not realize, guys, I've been writing proposals for Schrock Interactive now for 2 weeks. And how that works to me is I have 2 meetings a day that are 30-minute meetings that end up going an hour, where I talk to business owners and we identify things on their website that are not set up properly, that were set up properly back in the day, but the day has changed and now they need to be changed to comply with the current world. And I identify these things with them on the phone. We make a plan: short-term, intermediate-term, long-term. The short-term stuff is stuff that we can move on now. We don't have to eat the entire apple today. We can take one bite. Let's start and take one bite. Let's get moving, and let's get off the X, move in the right direction. And then Annette follows up with them after that to do that. And so then I'm writing proposals and I'm writing plans, and it's going really well. It's a new system that we're inventing at Schrock Interactive because we need to be more proactive. Schrock Innovations is very proactive with its customers, like keeping them safe, keeping them current, keeping them up to date. Schrock Interactive is much more reactionary. We'll fix your website if it breaks. We'll upgrade you if the security needs to be upgraded, when it needs to be upgraded. Now the approach that I'm taking with Schrock Interactive Schrock Interactive is very similar to Schrock Innovations, but it requires a huge time investment to get us off the X, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm pushing on the boulder and it's starting to roll, and as soon as I get it going with a good head of steam so it's got a direction, then we're going to hire a project manager and put him right behind it. So if you are somebody who has project management experience, specifically in IT project management, and also has experience writing proposals, I would like to, we're going to be putting an ad up. We're going to be hiring, we're going to start probably with a part-time person that will rapidly become a full-time position. It'll be a work-from-home position if you want it to be. But if you're interested in that, we don't care if you're in Omaha, Lincoln, Papillion. You'll never be meeting with customers. You'll be on the phone with them a lot, though. It's an interesting thing. We'll put the job up soon on the Schrock Innovations employment page at schrockinnovations.com. So anyway, all that's going on, but that day I was not doing Schrock Interactive. It was all hands on deck. We had the Schrock Interactive team helping. Everybody was working on getting people migrated, getting people set up on Sophos, in fact, I was going to check real quick and see if I can tell how many people have been migrated, because I looked on Friday, because after Thursday I was like, my goodness, this day, I didn't see it. All right, there we go. So we have a Google Sheet that we are updating with people that we have migrated successfully, so we can keep a track. So if you contact us and say, hey, have I been migrated, we'll be able to look and tell if you've been migrated. So it's pretty simple there. But anyway, the neat thing about this whole thing was that I didn't realize how drained my bucket had become. Um, you guys, I thrive when I'm helping people. I thrive when I'm providing service to people. I thrive when I'm making things that don't work work. And when I'm writing proposals, I'm not doing that. And I realize it's kind of killing my soul a little bit. And that one day, everybody else in the service center was just like, they, at the end of the day, they were dragging. And don't get me wrong, I was tired at the end of the day too, but I was so fulfilled. I was so fulfilled to have people letting me know that my help helped them, and it was just amazing. It was great to see. So anyway, if you're joining the After Schrock and you didn't catch the main program, we are migrating everybody from Sophos over to or from Endpoint over to Sophos. And some people will get automatically migrated. Other people have to run a migration tool. Some people have to come into the shop. Others do not. So it looks like the 50 people we migrated yesterday after 6 o'clock have all been marked as removed. So we have officially migrated about 1,100 people so far. So it's about a third of the Endpoint list that we have, a little under a third. Most of these people were people that were automatically updated by a secure updater. So you can see we have quite a bit of work to do yet. And so if you are struggling to get through this migration, please be patient with us. We're going to get you through it. Right now, the idea here is we're going to automatically migrate everybody we can automatically migrate. Then we're going to push out a tool, and basically everybody who is, more technically, has a higher technical aptitude is going to run the tool. They'll know how to get through the security prompts or whatever, and they'll run it. And then we're going to be left with the majority of users, which we always knew was going to be the majority at the end, which is why we are working on getting that migration tool security signed right now, which is an expensive thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. So once it's security signed, Microsoft won't flag it anymore. Endpoint won't flag it anymore. Google Chrome won't flag it anymore, and it will just run on your computers, just like Drive Advisor just runs, just like Secure Updater just runs. This tool will do the same thing, and then the migration will get a lot easier. So if you're frustrated, if you're having trouble, sit tight for a couple days, and we're going to get you done. There'll be a new tool we'll have you download, and then everything will be right with the world. If you want to get it done now, though, we are eager and ready to get it done for you. I mentioned on Sundays our staffing levels are slightly lower in the service centers, so I want to make sure that if you do call the service center, you're aware that our staffing levels are a little bit lower than normal, just because it's a half day, and we want to be open on Sunday so that customers can pick up and drop off and transact business basically and get their stuff fixed. But we don't want to keep our entire staff away from their families. A lot of these guys work Saturdays as well, so getting them a weekend day is kind of important. So if we staff down by one person for a half day, we can usually do that and give half of our staff a day off, basically. Unlike me, they want 2 days a week off. I'm like, oh, 1 day is fine. I was laying in bed last night. For some reason, I'm not one to get insomnia, but I was laying in bed. I think I drank some caffeine before I went to bed, and I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, I was laying there and thinking about proposals I needed to write and plans I needed to do and customers that need to be migrated and things like that. And I'm like, why am I just laying here if I'm not even asleep? I could get up and get work done. Never mind the fact that all of my work requires me to talk to other people who are sleeping. It doesn't work out that way. All right, so that was the big thing in the service center this week. Of course, then we also had the release of the 20H2 update. I see Mitch, top fan, welcome to the program, said the upgrade went great. I'm glad that it went well. The update this time around, safe upgrade, you guys have done it a few times by now, so you kind of know how it works for the most part. It is 6 months apart each time, so you kind of forget a little bit, but it comes back to you real quick. So when you run your safe upgrade product, if you haven't done that already, please do so. You can go to your Schrock account and download it, or we sent you an email with the link that you can get it automatically. Grab it and pull it down, but run that tool. And when you run the Safe Upgrade tool, it's going to ask you to sign into your Schrock account. You put in your username, which is your email, and then the password that you used to buy the software. You'd be shocked at how many people don't remember the password from the time they buy the software to the time they run the software. It's like password reset, password reset, password reset. It's kind of funny. But run that software and it'll get you upgraded. As we run the software, guys, we're going to be bringing those licenses back online. So that other customers can purchase them as well. It was a huge revenue hit for us to not sell 1,000 of these licenses this time around. but it was the right thing to do, and thank God we did it. If we would have had double the number of Safe Upgrade people calling us, it would have taken a bad situation from a service productivity situation to worse. To give you an idea of how intense the phones were, my staff are trained. When you have a customer in front of your face, you don't answer the phone. You help the customer who is face-to-face with you first. Then you go to the phone. If the customer says, oh, you can get that, don't do it, because you know if you answer the phone, it's going to turn into a Schrock desk, and you're going to be on the phone for an hour. And the customer is going to be standing there saying, I wish I wouldn't have said that. So help the customer, get them taken care of, and then go to the phones. From 2 o'clock on Thursday until 8 o'clock in the evening, the Papillion Service Center alone missed 100 phone calls. That, well, when I say missed, that means the phone system had to answer them because a human wasn't around to answer them. And then the phone system holds them in queue until a human can get to them. So it was intense. So if you were trying to get through and you had trouble, I'm really sorry about that. We never want to have that situation where customers are not able to get the support that they need. But there's also the reality of, it was just a bad situation where two big things hit at the exact same time. They weren't supposed to. Microsoft never releases these updates until the end of the month. Every time it's the end of the month. So I'm always on the radio. I'm very careful to warn you, hey, this could come at any moment. Be ready for it. But in my head, I'm thinking, it ain't going to be here till the end of the month, right? And this time, of course, they brought it a week early. Because I guess if it went sideways, they didn't want it to be the Halloween surprise, So yeah, we still have 30 of them in stock now over at Schrock Innovations if you need a copy of Safe Upgrade. So let's jump through these questions here real quick. Roger's having coffee. Good to join you, Roger. Cheryl, Rich, nice to have you. Hello, Richard. Oh, yeah, Mark, you'd be surprised. I mean, you got to think, too. Mark comments on Facebook. Thanks for doing the After Schrock. Hard to imagine somebody risking their reputation doing a no-call, no-show. Some of these guys, this was a junior tech. These are kids. These literally are kids. We hire junior techs. We filter them in the interview process. Then we put them through a 90-day probationary period where we filter them again. This particular employee has been late almost every day. Not significantly late, not like hours late, but we ask our employees to be at the shop 15 minutes before their shift starts so they can hang up their coat, put their lunch in the fridge, go to the bathroom, check their email, do whatever they're going to do so that when they clock in, they're ready to start their day. This guy was showing up at 1 minute past his shift or 2 minutes past his shift every single day. So there were some warning signs. That's what the probationary period is for. Parker was working with him, saying, listen, it's important when you are in a professional position, just like everything else in life, 9/10 of the job is showing up. And if you can't show up on time, we can't count on you to help customers. And so these are kids. I mean, some of them, this is their first job. This guy wasn't. He actually worked at DoSpace before he worked for us. So anyway, we thought, hey, this is perfect. DoSpace is great. They work with our demographic. He's used to training people on things. This is going to be awesome. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. We hired a new guy in Lincoln named Ryan as a junior technician, and literally, I spoke with Eli. I said, how's the new guy doing? Eli tells me, Thor, this guy is going to be coming for our job in like 6 months. He's going to want my job in like 6 months. He's that good. He's that smart. He's that quick. Wow, that's what we want. The guy that no-called, no-showed had some good qualities, or we wouldn't have brought him in. But I tell Parker, the purpose of hiring a junior technician is to develop a senior technician. The senior technicians are the people that are the go-to clutch people that can solve a tough problem because they've been around the block a few times. So every shop has 2 senior technicians and 2 junior technicians. So the objective of every junior technician is to become a senior technician. The objective of every senior technician is to train and bring up the junior technicians in a controlled environment so that they provide great award-winning service to our customers while they're developing. So it's a little tricky because we're hiring people that don't always have the complete package of skill sets, but we're developing those skill sets in them. So it's a little bit of on-the-job training, a little bit of character building, a little bit of development, learning how people are motivated. Some people respond really well to praise. Some people require monetary motivation. Some people require perks. You have the perk people that want coffee mugs and sweaters and things like that. Sweaters? What, sweaters? Anyway, none of my guys want a sweater. I can tell you that. All right. So yeah. So as far as their reputation, they're not thinking reputation yet. They're thinking Friday. They're living for the Friday right now. But hey, we're all kids at some point, right? Alrighty. Happy snowy Sunday. My desktop computer was built in 2011. Is there a point where it's better to do a clean install instead of a clone? I'm thinking about purchasing a holiday special desktop. Yes. So Mark, we would never clone your computer into the holiday special. We would do a data transfer. So it is a clean install. We're going to install Windows 10 20H2 on the holiday special desktop, and then we are going to migrate all of your programs and settings, or excuse me, I misspoke. Not your programs. We're going to migrate all of your files and settings because we can't migrate programs. We have to reinstall programs from the original installation media. Speaking of the holiday special, we are looking for desktop testers right now, guys. I should have mentioned this during the show. That's what I get for not following the agenda and just I had an agenda right in front of me, and I just went. Probably because I'm tired. But anyway, we do need some testers for the desktop. Basically, the way that works is you purchase the desktop, you get it early. You don't have to wait until late November to get yours, but you'll get yours early. And then once you have your holiday special desktop, you just let us know what you think of it. So we made some changes to the hardware this year. It's going to be similar to last year's. We actually got the exact same case, which was kind of cool. Beloved Kimberly's like, ooh, pictures. I don't have to retake the pictures? That'd be kind of cool. She's going to retake them anyway. You know she is. But anyway, the case is the same. This year's computer will not come with a DVD drive. It also will not come with a card reader. Those items are available for add-on. You guys were part of some of the focus groups that we did of customers asking them questions during the After Schrock. That's one of our biggest focus groups that we use. The overwhelming majority of responses was do not put a DVD drive in it. And then everybody was kind of indifferent about the card reader, so we changed the question. We asked you, when is the last time you have used the card reader? And we said, like, this week, in the last month, in the last 3 months, never. And the majority of people said never. So we took those two devices out to free up room in the budget to give you a webcam, an HD webcam, very similar to the one I'm on right now. Of course, Facebook is compressing. I'm like, why do our Facebook videos look so blurry? And what it's coming down to is I think it's the internet connection in studio that is a little bit slower than we would like. So it's dropping frames. So that's probably why it's a little fuzzy. Because my videos from home aren't fuzzy. On a gigabit connection, they're crystal clear. So what's up with that? So anyway, we're adding a webcam because it's pretty much a requirement. Laptops come with webcams, desktops don't, but everybody is going with Zoom now. So you need a webcam and a microphone. So we have a webcam microphone that comes with the computer, as well as a 3-piece speaker set. In the past, as a budget cut, what we have done is most people have their own speakers. If they're audiophiles, they have their own speakers already. But the monitors have always had built-in speakers, which was good enough for the bings and the bongs and things like that. It wasn't going to give you a Beethoven moment, but it covered the base of having some kind of a speaker. They don't work well for Zoom. They're too quiet. They're hard. The speakers are too small. There's no bass. You can't. It's hard to differentiate voices. So we chose to include a 3-piece speaker set, which is the 2 speakers and the subwoofer. So literally, this is like, we haven't done a subwoofer speaker set since 2011 in the holiday special. That's back when subwoofer speakers were a real big deal. What's old is new again, guys. So that's what the holiday special is this year. It's going to have a Ryzen 7 chip, which I literally threw up in a bucket when I saw what the Ryzen 7 chips were costing right now. Those chips are costing us almost $400 a chip, up from $200 and something last year. Part of that is supply shortage, part of that is pandemic, and part of that is AMD is releasing their new Ryzen 5000 chips next month, and stock is running low on the old chips because they're not making them. So here's the thing. If we're going to intentionally keep the wording of the Ryzen 7 processor in the catalog and on the website vague. We're going to say Ryzen 7 processor. We're not going to tell you the model. Because if the Ryzen 5000 chips come out, we're going to include them. And if they don't come, see, they're going to be released in mid-November. That doesn't mean we can buy them in mid-November. It may be January or February before we can get them. But I'm hoping something comes out because it's getting very difficult to find these chips. Same thing with Ryzen 3 chips. Same problem. A chip that normally would cost us 90 or $100 is now costing us 130. It's just shortage. And I can't buy root beer either. Can't buy IBC root beer anywhere. Diet IBC anyway. So same thing, shortage. Coca-Cola is going to cut some of their flavors because they can't keep up with demand. Again, higher demand, no additional capacity, so there's a shortage. So yeah, blame it on COVID. Why not? Everything can be blamed on COVID. The Tucera H2 update and the Sophos Endpoint thing happening at the same time was probably COVID's fault too. Why not? But yes, Mark, the desktop, we are going to do a clean install on it. And if you'd like to be a holiday special tester, give us a call in any of the service centers and we're happy to get you set up with that. Yeah, Loanne says, Tom and Shelly were my lifesavers. Tom and Shelly are both Des Moines Service Center employees. Tom is such a solid guy. He is that amazing clutch guy that everybody calls when they need help moving, and he always shows up. He's that guy, except he does it with computer stuff. And Shelly is just beautifully amazing. She was such a trooper this weekend. She, on Messenger, just at the moment when I was so burnt out, I was like, oh my gosh, another one. My wife and I we had cabinets installed in the kitchen, and we have to wait until mid-November to get our countertops, which means we don't have a kitchen sink. And with 3 kids, that's not going really well. And we didn't have a dishwasher either, so we were literally playing hotel, washing the dishes upstairs in the hand washing sink in the bathroom. It was not going well. We had a bus tub. It was crazy. So I'm like, listen, I'm gonna go to the Home Depot. I'm gonna get a couple sheets of plywood. Again, I'm your computer guy. I am not the guy you want building anything out of wood for you. Trust me, it will not be plumb. I will cut twice and measure a half. Not once, but a half. I'll eyeball it. I'll say, yeah, that's about right. That's about level. That's about even. No, you don't want me building you anything out of wood. But I went to the Home Depot and I got 2 sheets of plywood, and I told them I measured the counter before I left, and I measured the counter, and it's 24 inches deep. My wife was very specific. She does not want overhang because she doesn't want any damage to the edge of the countertops of the new cabinet fronts. Perfect. So I get these 2 boards. I measure 24 inches precisely is what I need. I double checked it. I measured it on the other side of the counter in case the wall wasn't even. See, I'm thinking, right? And so I'm like, okay, everything is 24 inches. I get to Home Depot. I pull the plywood off the shelf. No one's there to help me. So I'm like, lifting the plywood, putting it on the cart. So, it's 8 foot by 4 sheet, 3/4 inch thick piece of plywood, which, it's heavy, but it's not impossible to move. So I got it moved. Rolled it back to the saw because I'm going to make them cut it for me because I don't have a table saw. And I'm like, yeah, I need these 2 boards cut. I need 2 27-inch pieces. Yeah, I did that. Remember, I needed 24-inch pieces, but I told them I needed 27-inch pieces. And they measured twice and cut once and gave me 2 27-inch pieces for counters. I laid one on the counter, and it hung way over the front of the counter. My wife specifically told me, I do not want it to overhang the tops of the cabinets because it will scuff up the surface of those tops of the cabinets, and they're brand new cabinets, and I don't want them scuffed. All right, where's my jigsaw? Now I'm cutting this line, and it's just like I don't have the right jigsaw blade, so it's just like destroying the wood. I'm like, yeah, this is the part that goes back by the wall. Then I'm bolting this. Then I'm like, okay, I cut out the hole for the sink, and I put a sink in, and I screwed the sink in. And my wife literally leaves the house while I'm doing this. She has errands to run, but I'm pretty sure she just did not want to witness what was going to be Thor building something out of wood, because it was not going to be pretty. So I get the sink mounted to it. I bring it inside. I get it hooked up. Now I got to hook up the plumbing. And trust me, if you think it's bad with wood, a plumber's putty is my friend, right? No, I actually hooked it up right because I had all the pieces from unhooking it, and nothing changed, right? It's the same placement. I was able to hook it all back up, and it all worked. And my wife came home, and we had a dishwasher, and we had a sink, and we had a run of countertop. After not having countertop for 2 weeks, you don't realize how much. You walk into the kitchen, and you go to set it down, and there's literally no place to set anything down. And you're like, I'll just hold this in my hand, I guess. You go take the kids' sippy cups, you go put them in the sink, but there's no sink. You're like, oh, where am I going to put these used sippy cups so the kids don't drink the other half of the milk out of them that's all warm and nasty? I guess I'll run upstairs and dump this in the sink. So anyway, that's the level of burn. I was doing that while I was, so literally, thank you for your message. Before we begin, let's make sure that you don't already have Sophos installed. And it was the same thing over. I was like, literally, I should make a copy paste. and just be like copy, paste. But everyone had a slightly different problem. Everybody started at a different step in the process. So I'm like, all right. And literally, while that was going on Friday, which was supposed to be my day off with my wife, she was very forgiving because we were doing home improvement work, though, and I was getting my work done while I was chatting with customers. But Shelly steps in, and it was like having Babe Ruth at the plate. Home run after home run after home run, just knocking them out. And another message while I was cutting. There was another message, and Shelly's on it. Sweet. Put it back in my pocket. Make another cut. Take my phone out. Look at it. Oh, another message. Shelly's on it. Sweet. Oh, it was Shelly. You probably saved at least 2 of my fingers last week because I would have been trying to talk while I was jigsawing 3 inches off the boards that I told Home Depot to cut to the wrong size because I wasn't thinking. Amazing. So Shelly and Tom did a great job this week. Logan was amazing with the tool he built. The whole Des Moines staff really stepped up. All right. Did the migrations enter the computer legally? I get it. Illegal migrants into your computer. Oh, I can always count on Keith for a ha-ha. All right, good morning from Round Rock, Texas. Thank you so much. This is Carolyn. Alfonso and Brian in the Omaha shop for the help this week. Sophos is on all 6 computers in the family, and Safe Upgrade took care of upgrading all the computers. Boom! That's what we like to see. Thank you, Carolyn. By the way, we have a cold front here in Round Rock. It's 59 cloudy, going up to 65 today. She wants me to move, is what she's trying to do, guys. That's what she's trying to do. Just so we're transparent. Keith says you ought to be a masseuse because you know how to rub it in. All right. That's a fine, soft day in Omaha. All right. Mark, have the number 1 item on next week's agenda to follow the agenda. That's right. Today's meeting, the purpose of today's meeting will be to discuss future meetings. Yeah, I'm joking with my wife. I'm like, okay, these are some straight up Schrock plywood countertops, right? They look like plywood. So she takes a picture of them, right? So she has these beautiful cabinets, beautiful island in the middle of the kitchen. The appliances are the same appliances, but they look good because they're next to good cabinets. They look new even though they're not. The whole kitchen is just, it's painted. There's LED recessed lighting in the ceiling. It's just a beautiful kitchen. Refinished floors. Oh, beautiful, right? And then there's these broke plywood countertops that have, like, you know, how they spray paint their brand on the plywood. It's like sitting on the countertop. And I'm looking at this thing like, this looks... So she takes a picture, sends it to her mom, and says, check out my awesome countertops. And her mom replies, yay? Like, she doesn't know if Kim's joking or not. Like, I thought you were getting real countertops. Did you run out of budget? Like, what happened to the countertops? And she's like, no, my husband cut these plywood countertops for me. And then everyone else, the second response is like, wow, he cut a couple pieces of plywood. That's some manly stuff right there. But then those who know me are like, wow, Thor actually successfully cut a relatively straight line in plywood? That's amazing, you know? And then she says, and he hooked up the plumbing, and at that point I get a little bit of street cred because I'm like, okay, nobody likes to screw with plumbing, right? Nobody likes that. Kimberly Schrock is not a top fan because she's an admin on the. Apparently, in the algorithm you cannot become a top fan of yourself. In the most narcissistic world that is social media, you cannot be your own top fan. It's kind of funny. But yeah, she tried for a while. She's like, she was very frustrated about it. Why am I not a top fan? I like everything. I respond to everything. I share everything, and I'm not a top fan. Then that's why you can't be a top fan of your own site, unfortunately. All right, let's see. What else is going on this week in the service centers? Oh boy. We are beginning the conceptual work. We're doing a lot of internal work right now, guys. The Schrock Interactive website needs to go, so we're going to be replacing it with a new website that accurately represents what we can do and how well we can do it. The second thing is the Schrock Innovations website has some issues. Nothing major that's impacting functionality, but just little things that I've noticed. Like we have fonts that Schrock uses for our logo and in our development, and the fonts on the Schrock Innovations website do not match those fonts. Some of our products we have really nice art that the lovely Kimberly has taken for us, pictures, actual photographic pictures. Sometimes we're using the manufacturer's pictures, and that's because during the pandemic, we couldn't always we usually order the same stuff every time. It makes for consistency and support over the phone. If I know exactly what hookups are on the back of your monitor, I can help you. But during the pandemic, we couldn't get any monitors. So whenever any monitor became available, we ordered it. I've told the story before about how Ryan drew the line at the, what's the name of that brand? Westinghouse, the Westinghouse LED monitors. He's like, Thor, I draw the line there. I know we're in a pandemic, but even in a pandemic, you have to have standards. And a Westinghouse monitor is below standards. Like, it's just for the bench so he can work on computers. It's like, oh, it's fine then. Okay, great. You know, so it's below his standard, but, you know, fine for working on things. But during the pandemic, we had to get a lot of different weird stuff. So we had to get keyboards and mice that weren't all the same. Sometimes there was the Logitech 270 series, sometimes it was the 320 series, sometimes it was Microsoft, and the webcams. Sometimes we could get this weird Chinese brand, and sometimes we could get that weird Chinese brand. We still can't get any Logitech webcams. So everything was changing so fast that our product art is not consistent. But I'm not going to say we're not in a pandemic anymore, even though the WHO says we're not in a pandemic anymore, but nobody reports that. I'm going to say that we've had plenty of time existing in the new normal now to have fixed these things, and we have not. And so there's some things that just need to get fixed so that we can make sure that we're delivering that award-winning experience. Like, for example, when you go to shop on the website and you go to look at the Endeavor computer, people who buy from our website are Schrock customers who usually have bought from us before, who know what they're coming to shop for and purchase it on the website. There is no description of the Endeavor computer that would make you decide to buy it or not buy it. What is it intended for? Who is it built for? What does it do good with? There's no friendly description. There's specs, twice, specs, and then specs again, but one of those spots is supposed to be for a friendly English description of what the computer is, how it operates, who it's intended for, you know, what differentiates it from the Boundless or the Venture in our lineup. That doesn't exist right now. So there's some content we need to write. There's some small things that need to happen. So we're going to be doing a lot of internal work on the Schrock website going forward there as well. You know, KJ, the studio here at KFAB is there was a plan to remodel it. They had a whole trade deal worked out. We were going to provide all the technology for it. We were going to put LED screens on the wall behind me and behind me on the other wall, behind the other wall, so whoever was doing their show literally could have their logo for their show behind them while they're doing the show. The other thing is you could share one of the screens on Facebook Live. So if you were doing a remote interview with somebody over, and this was before COVID, so imagine if they would have had that capability during COVID, where they could have had a live in-studio guest on a live feed on Facebook with a split-screen video, and we could have done it all through Zoom. So there was a lot of things that could have happened, but there's a couple problems. For example, the studio in WHO, the studio that they have is amazing. So iHeart decides who gets studio money based on ratings and market and available budget. iHeart doesn't have a huge available budget right now. iHeart is the parent company of the radio group that I'm on right now, as well as a number of other stations. They don't have a huge budget. Their financial situation has been detailed. I won't go into the specifics on it, but they don't have a lot of money to do it right now. So what I propose doing is hanging a green screen behind me, and this is one of the things that any of you out there who have owned a business before, there's a difference between working on the business and working in the business. So right now, I am writing proposals for Schrock Interactive or troubleshooting support on a phone or doing whatever we got to do. I am working in the business. In the meantime, I try to take a portion of my day every day and set that aside to work on the business. For example, we had I heard it last week air during the radio show, we have a spot promoting Semantic Endpoint that airs in our Schrock commercials. Got to get rid of that, don't we? Whoopsies! Because we haven't recorded a new Schrock filler spot commercial in like 3 years. I have them written. I just have to send them to Scott to voice. I just need to do that. I just need to literally do that. So that's working on the business. So then that way that will pay dividends going forward. Or setting up a backdrop. I've requested permission to hang something on the wall behind me. The problem is there's stuff on the wall behind me, like stuff that stands out from the wall, and that's not going to work really well with a green screen. I've thought about possibly asking to be moved to a different studio that we could set up some temporary thing, because they have a studio intended for video here in the KFAB building, but it doesn't have a board in the room or phone systems. So there are some logistic limitations to what we can do and how we can do it. So you're right. We working on one of the things I want to do. Okay. Let me give you my laundry list of things that I want to do with our radio show on a regular basis that will probably require me to hire a part-time producer. Number one, we need to change the look of the stream. We need to figure out why the video is so pixelated and fix it. It's probably Facebook compression. There's probably nothing we can do about it, but we could stream through Restream, which is a different streaming service that would allow us to stream to several platforms at once. So we could be live streaming to YouTube, we could be live streaming to Vimeo, we could be live streaming to Facebook, we could be doing Periscope on Twitter, we could be every service basically. You can restream to all of them, and then that way you could pick what platform looked best that you wanted to watch us on. It requires us to monitor all those platforms, however, which is something I can't do on a live broadcast by myself. The second thing is after we do the show, each segment has a story topic to it, and then there are advertising pieces for our products and services. Right? Some people listen to the show because they want information. Some people listen to the show because they want to be entertained. Some people listen to the show because they have nothing better to do with their time on Sunday morning while they're driving to church. You know what I mean? I'd like to snip each segment into a smaller segment and then condense it. So almost like a Cliff Notes version of the show. If you just wanted the news stories of the program, you could watch the whole radio show in 15 minutes, right? But you would lose the entertainment pieces, and you would lose the ads, and you watch it in 15 minutes. We don't have a Patreon option. Patreon is a subscription service where you can basically pay an additional fee for additional benefits and additional content and things like that. So we don't have that Patreon thing, because I'm of the opinion, guys, you're taking the time to tune in and show up and watch the show. I don't want to create a separate class of customer. Like, you guys are good, but you're not as good as the Patreon guys who give me money. I don't want that. I would rather have a situation where where everybody is on an equal playing field, but let's give people some additional content. Let's bring in more viewers to the program. So we can do that pretty easily by having a producer or somebody to yes, I know, Emily, you're available, but the problem is you're not available every day. So now think about daily video. Think about daily video. I thought we should do like a here's your daily update. Here's the tech news of the day. This is your daily update, and I have a whole backdrop at home. I wouldn't even have to leave the house. I could cut it at my desk and then send it to the producer, who would basically make sure it gets uploaded everywhere. And then Kara would have the responsibility from a search engine perspective of captioning everything. I don't know if my feed is frozen or not, guys. My video is frozen on my screen. I'm going to pull it up over here. Bear with me if you're actually watching live right now. Are you watching it right now? No, I didn't know if you had it up, because my screen is completely frozen. Welcome to 2020. So let's see, connecting. No, it's still streaming. So yeah, I'm good. So we're going to let it keep going, but I'm completely frozen. All right. Anyway, there is a laundry list of things I want to do with the radio show. To break it into smaller segments, to bring in sponsorship. I think we could do a lot with sponsors, especially as the show gets larger. We've never really approached people for sponsorship opportunities because we didn't have a large enough audience. We're not going to attract like an Epson to talk about an EcoTake printer. Now, I don't want to go full Kim Commando on you either, though, because you're laughing, but her whole show is an ad, and I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we're delivering information and help and answering questions and having time to take calls and things like that. But sponsorships can take a lot of different forms. Rather than having a Patreon, for example, if we do a daily update, you could sponsor the daily update. And so that would be literally like what you hear with on the radio. The weather is always sponsored by a heating and air company, right? So today's weather brought to you by Joe Smith's Heating and Air, 3 locations in the metro area. Something like that, where you could say today's daily update is brought to you by Epson. Their EcoTake printer is awesome. Check it out. Trust me. All right, going on. And that would be the extent of it, And of course, in the meantime, until we sold those sponsorships, we would just fill them with Schrock products, Drive Advisor, Secure Updater, Safe Upgrade, things like that. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot I want to do with the show, KJ, a lot. But the challenge that I have is the budget and the number of hours in the day. I mentioned in the very start of the show today that Fat Brain Toys was acquired by Tommy Toys. Tommy is a Japanese toy company. Here's the cool thing. Nothing is going to change with Fat Brain. This is the rage right now in mergers and acquisitions. It's called a partial sale. And what it means is Fat Brain sold as much as 75% stake in their company. So they I don't know. I have no information on the precise details of what did or did not happen with Fat Brain's deal. So please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying this is what they did. But the rage right now and what it looks like happened is a partial sale. So the principles at Fat Brain is an amazing toy company because they create toys and games. They don't just resell the other stuff that people make. They have their own lines of card games. These card games are awesome. The Moose on the Loose, I mean, come on. That game was fun. My son played that game forever, and it's teaching him numbers and counting and sorting and logic. And the problem was they started Fat Brain Toys because they couldn't find age-appropriate toys for their kids. Yes, my daughter goes through the toy section at Target and she wants those stupid LOL surprise dolls. And I'm sorry, but some of those dolls are just not. Yes, I can't make that gesture on camera, but yes, they're not appropriate for that age. Okay, so anyway, they're very cuties. Let's put it that way. Very Netflix cuties. So they started Fat Brain to have toys that were age appropriate for kids. Now, I've created products. We have our enclosures that we make. We have our own card readers now coming in. We've made tablets in the past. We've made products. I know what it takes to make a product. It is not cheap. It is not easy. The focus grouping alone costs a ton of money, and you have to do it, or you create a product that nobody wants. So all that investment, all that money going in to toys, and people go and buy the toys. And they have a website. They hire 300 seasonal workers to fill Christmas orders, guys. They are big time. And so Tommy Toys comes in and says, we want to buy you. Now, they don't want to buy Fat Brain because Fat Brain hires 300 seasonal. This is Tommy Toys, who makes, let me see, they make the Disney Princess line. Yeah, that's them. That's Tommy. So they're huge. I mean, they're like epically large. Fat Brain to them is a snail on the road. Fat Brain to many small businesses is a blow-up success story. But what is actually valuable about Fat Brain? Yes, they've created lots of great toys, but toys are very much like, what have you done for me lately? What's the latest, greatest toy you've created? If you don't keep creating, you don't stick around. So the value in Fat Brain is not the 300 seasonal workers they have to hire to fill orders. The value is the fact that they have a brain trust that makes games and things that they win industry awards, guys. They're going up against Mattel and they're winning industry awards. That's what Tommy is buying. So Tommy doesn't want to get rid of the people at Fat Brain. They don't want to change a thing. They want them to keep making their product. They want them to have skin in the game. They're going to leave them with 25% or more of the company. And then their goal is to make the company's pie bigger. So their 25% slice of the pie is larger than what the entire pie was to begin with. And what Tommy brings to the table is capital. So now you were creating one new game, 2 new games a year, something like that. We need you to create 15 a year. So we want you to give us the ideas, and then our product development team will handle focus grouping. We do all this stuff. This is what we have, a whole department that does this. We're going to go through and do everything. We're going to print demos. We're going to get all this done. We're going to test it, and then once we know it's going to be a hit, then we'll print it with the Fat Brain name on it, and you will have it in your Fat Brain stores. And you will have a toy at Fat Brain that Target can't carry. It's going to be a huge success. It is going to be taking what is an amazing local small business and giving them the shot. It's going to be the remdesivir, and it's going to be the Trump cocktail of steroids that are going to just catapult them. Well, it's like you get remdesivir. What was the other thing you got? Regeneron. It's Regeneron and remdesivir. And then all of a sudden you got like Super T-Man. Sounds like a testosterone ad, doesn't it? So anyway, I'm guessing that's what they did. And you guys, those seasonal workers are still going to get hired. The warehouses are still going to operate. The stores are still going to be around. The owners are still going to be the same great people who were there before. It's just they're going to be able to do some amazing new things that you can't imagine now. And that's the rage right now in merger and acquisitions. That's what everybody's doing. We've been approached about the same thing, guys. That's why I know so much about it. And the numbers they are offering are just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. We're talking... we don't have any pending deals or anything, don't get me wrong. But we have people who want us to have pending deals. Literally, there's a generational group wants to put us in the hopper. Like, if you go to public auction, I'm not saying you would sell for this, but a company like yours that didn't have as much was like $17 million. They didn't have your marketing stuff, and they didn't have your branded products, but they had more users. So it's not really apples to apples, but yeah, that's the kind of money that they're talking about in these deals. And you can never, when you do strike a deal, you can never say the deal, but they don't want to get rid of what works. That's the thing. They want to keep the it was like Warren Buffett once said that he doesn't buy racehorses, he buys jockeys. Or somebody said that about Warren Buffett. He doesn't buy racehorses, he buys jockeys. So he wants to own enough of the company to have control and direction because he's going to put so much money into it, but he doesn't want to take the jockey off the horse because that's what makes the race special. And if you take that out, you take Shelley and Tom out of Des Moines, what do you have? You take Brian and Parker and Gabe out of Omaha, what do you have? You take Ryan and Nikki out of Papillion, what do you got? You take me off the radio, what do you got? They don't want to screw with that stuff. They want to leave all that alone. Their thing is like Carolyn in Round Rock wants a Schrock in Round Rock, and I'm like, we might get around to that in a decade or so. If we had something like the Fat Brain deal come through, we'd be there next year. And the radio show would be a national show like that. And I would have to get a new backdrop. All right, last call for questions, guys. I got to get rolling. All right, so I don't even know how many viewers we have right now because I can't even see that. My screen is still locked up on my end, but everybody said I was still streaming, so I took your word for it. So last call for questions, and if you have one, you can post it up there. If you don't, you don't. Didn't talk much about election stuff, guys, because honestly, I'm getting kind of tired of it. Don't know about you. I'm looking forward to voting. I'm going to go vote in person. That's what I always do. We go to the Kloss Tractor Factory. That's where you vote in Papillion. It's really cool. You walk in and there's huge combines and tractors and stuff. And I remember I voted when I voted in the last presidential election. The line was out the door, and I've never seen anything like that. Usually you show up to vote. I get there pretty early in the morning, like 8 o'clock. Well, that's not super early, but I'm not waiting till noon 30 to show up to vote. And so I go in there to vote, and there might be 2 or 3 people in line ahead of me. I get to a booth, I make my vote, I leave. No, I waited in line for a good half an hour to vote last time around. And the guy in front of me and the woman behind me, neither of them had ever voted in their lives, and they were all over 30. And they weren't there to vote for Hillary. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see, like, they're all over the map. Okay, it's crazy. You guys want to have, let me tell you, you guys have all heard of the Drudge Report, right? There's a lot of speculation that Matt Drudge either sold that silently to somebody else, or something happened that's a full left-hand turn on that website, because it is not a right-wing media website anymore. It's basically like CNN or Huffington Post now. But so it has a lot of traffic because people just know to go to the Drudge Report, right? So if you go read the news on the Drudge Report, Biden is coasting to a 50-state electoral college landslide victory, and there's nothing that's going to stop him. Then if you go to Liberty Daily, which is basically the new Drudge Report, nothing can stop Trump. He's going to win all 50 states, and all the polling, they both sites have polling that they cite that say that their candidate's going to blow it out of the water. On Liberty Daily, we're going to take the House, the Senate, and Trump's going to win. And on Drudge Report, we're going to take the House, the Senate, and Biden's going to win. They're just, how is it possible to have two news sources that both have real content that is so diametrically opposite that you can't even, giving a generous helping of leeway, reconcile the two? It's just mind-blowing. So check out those two websites and you'll see what I mean. It's like, I have no idea what's going to happen, guys. Literally, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have a suspicion of what's going to happen. I think there's one side's got a lot of reality behind it, and one side's got a lot of fog and mirrors behind it. I was listening to a news report. They were covering. Fox is covering all the Trump rallies like in full, like wall to wall, real time. And I thought, my gosh, are they that like in the tank for Trump that they're not even covering the Biden rallies? There are no Biden rallies. There's nothing to cover. So finally, this last week, Biden had some rallies, right? And so I'm listening to the rally, and he's doing it. He does the social distancing thing. He's a firm believer in the COVID precautions. Everybody's social distancing. It was a car rally. It was a drive-in rally. Everybody was in their cars, and they would honk their support, right? And so I'm listening to this rally, and I'm not listening to what Biden's saying because I've heard his stump speech before. It's nothing new. Same thing with Trump. It's nothing new. It's the same thing every time. But I'm listening to the car honking. How many cars are honking? I'm trying to figure out, like, you hear the same horn beeping in the same way every time? And the answer is yes. One of them must have been closer to the microphone than the others. But then all of a sudden I hear this like tremendous honking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he has a lot of cars at this rally. When you think about that, how many cars would you have to park in a field to get that level of honking? Like, a lot of people showed up for this thing. You figure 2 to 4 people a car. Like, maybe the Drudge Report website is more correct than I thought. Then I heard later on that Joe Biden got a little rattled during that rally. And he said he called, instead of deplorables, he called chumps. Chumps are the new deplorables. All you chumps. And I didn't hear that because I wasn't listening to what he was saying. I was listening to the car horns honking. But apparently what happened was a Trump parade crashed his rally. And that was the honking I heard. And those were the chumps he called chumps. So yeah, so I mean, literally, guys, it's hard to know what to believe. It's hard to, you could take a sound clip of that rally and make it sound one way, and you could take a sound clip of that rally and make it sound a different way. I'm gonna go vote, and I'm gonna vote, and I'll be done. And then maybe, if we're lucky, we'll get some results. But okay, the way it's going to happen is it's widely considered that most people that are voting for Trump are going to vote in person, because most people who are voting for Biden are going to vote by mail. That's what everyone's been telling us in the news. I don't know if it's correct or not. But basically what this sets up is on election night, if there is let's just say Trump has a landslide victory because all Biden supporters voted for mail. So it looks like Trump won like all the vote. If that happens, then it'll be like, wait for the mail-in ballots because that's what Biden's going to get. So it may be like a week before we know who won actually. But here's the funny thing. It sounds really terrible. Like, it could be weeks before we know. But if you look at the timeline of how elections always work, you just don't pay attention to it because it's not a big deal. We know on election night who won, but the process of validating the election and then doing all this stuff, it takes weeks. It takes weeks. It always does, every time. So the election, before the electors go and vote at the Electoral College, there's a couple weeks that go by while states select their electors to go vote at the Electoral College. So, yeah, it's going to take weeks. It's going to take weeks. It always does. The question is, the difference is we won't know who won potentially on election night. Potentially. So anyway, I said I wasn't going to do politics, and I went ahead and did. Dang it. Sorry, Sarah. I'll put a cry face on that. I'm sorry. I went there. I was trying not to. Yeah, Bongino's pretty cool. My wife has been listening to the Bongino Report, and the way he does his podcasting is inspiring. Forget the content. Forget the political content. But the way he does the podcasting, how you can listen to a clip of his show where he talked about a specific topic, and then he can put search results on that topic so that it shows up in the search engines for that topic. So if you're looking for information on it, there's a Bongino clip you can watch. And it's got a long tail effect. So over time, you accumulate a huge library of sorted, organized clips of information. And whereas our radio show is a huge library of hour-long content, it would be really cool to have what Bongino has. And that's what we want. That's one of the models of what I want to create, actually. Liberty Daily will not load in Safari or Google? You're kidding me. No way. That can't be true. I want to try this real quick. Google.com Liberty Daily. And then we click on the Liberty Daily. It came up for me. I'm using Google Chrome. I use the Google search engine. So it's not being... oh, wow, these headlines. Anyway, it's not being filtered. But there's an app, there's a conservative news app you can download too that basically allows you to switch between sources like Liberty Daily or Bongino or Gateway Pundit, things like that. We vote by mail, but drop our ballots off at the election office. Yeah, that's lovely. Kimberly and I were talking about that. Oh, should we go get a ballot and drop it off then? So that we can make sure that our vote is counted. I'm like, oh no, we'll be fine if we go vote in person on election day. Lovely Kimberly sends a shout out to the poll workers. We appreciate you. Every time I vote, our poll workers or Compute This listeners. That is true. When I go up to vote, they're like, oh hey Thor, how are you doing? We listen to your show every week. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And you got to think. A lot of times when you go to the polls, guys, the people working the polls are older people. A lot of times they're over the age of 40. That's a pretty high risk COVID group. So regardless of how you feel about pandemic or COVID or anything, if you see those poll workers out there, give them a thank you. Just a little thank you, just to let them know they're appreciated. Because honestly, if you hear it enough in a day, they don't get paid to work the polls. It's volunteer. And they have to follow the rules, and then they're under a microscope, and there's poll observers and everything else. So, they can't joke, they can't smile, they can't do anything. They have to just give you your ballot and send you on your way, which is the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, give them a shout out too. They appreciate it. All right. You thought this was going to be about the Biden laptop? That was last week. We covered that last week, and I've already, Sarah's already kind of called me on the politics thing, so I got to stay away from it. But we did cover the Biden laptop last week. So if you scroll down our Facebook feed a little bit, we detailed what's on the Biden laptop. We made a prediction about what was going to hit by Wednesday of this week, and sure enough, it hit by Wednesday of this week. I'm not going to go into all the details about what it was. If you want to hear about it, you can hear about it. And there was more revelations this morning from Biden's daughter potentially as well. I don't know if they're credible or not. I'm not going to repeat them because they're so salacious and they're not confirmed. In my opinion, at this point, they're not confirmed. Confirmed enough to say them, to repeat them, because they're that bad. But anyway, you can seek them out yourself if you want to find those. All right. Anyway, guys, last call for questions here. I got to get going. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. I genuinely appreciate it. And thank you for your patience with us in the service centers this week. The staff is doing their absolute level best above and beyond to make sure that they're delivering award-winning service to you that you can count on during a time when everything seemed to be changing at once on your computer. Well, we're making sure that everything flows nicely for you. Literally, I got off the radio show, and there was a call waiting for a guy who's having a touchpad driver issue. And he was like, your Safe Upgrade isn't working because it won't install the update. Safe Upgrade will not install the update on your computer if you're going to have an issue with drivers. If it's not going to work, it won't do it. They call it Safe Upgrade, not Sure Upgrade. If we can't be done, it can't be done, and Microsoft's not going to do it either. That's one of the things they've learned. So we know 2 specific instances where Safe Upgrade will not install. If you're having trouble, give us a call, and we will help you with it. But if you're in that group that won't install, we just have to wait a week or so for a new driver to come out for your computer, and then we'll be able to install it just fine. Thanks for joining us, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll talk to you all again next week.